Hello, students, and welcome to the first part of the Nearpod assignment. Yes, we are going to try Nearpod. So many people are having problems with the PDFs that I thought we'll try something different and see if it's easier for people to grapple with. Downside is it will probably take you quite a bit longer to do. Don't worry, I had you for 400 minutes a week. This will probably only take you 90 at the most. So you're welcome. Okay, so we've been reading and talking about refugees. In fact, you had to write a narrative last week about something that you experienced a change in. So we're going to continue talking about refugees, and at the end of the quarter, you're going to write about a narrative, a fictitious narrative about what it would be like to be a refugee. So keep that in mind. So right now, we're going to learn more about the refugee crisis. So don't you worry about that. Okay. So first off, our vocabulary. Our first word is major. Means very serious, important, or blank when compared to something similar. Very serious, important, or I'm going to do the word large when compared to something similar. Big, right? What was a major, let's go big, add big. What was a major event in your life? This is a question you'll have to answer. So a major, J, don't make fun of me, event in your life was, for me, it was getting married. Okay, now on the Nearpod, you can just write your own sentence and you'll get full points. Okay, the next word is upheaval. Upheaval. The word means sudden blink or disruption. Sudden sudden change or disruption. How might a natural disaster cause a national upheaval? Hey, you're living through one. Okay, a natural disaster might cause national upheaval by causing businesses to close. Okay, you're living through one. The coronavirus is a natural disaster. It's a major event, and it's causing a lot of problems. Okay, refugee crises in modern history. Okay, now you notice these pins? These pins are indicate where people have had refugee crises. Okay, so there's Germany. Here's Syria. Let's see. This one is Iraq and India. Okay, so keep those places in mind. What the heck is going on here? There it is. Okay, by Kevin Chen. Refugee crises have plagued history. They are sparked by war, political conflict, and persecution. In the last 80 years, the world has seen forced migrations on epic scales. Read ahead to find out about major crises of contemporary history. Europe. 40 million people. Man, that's a lot of people. World War II, which took place from 1939 to 1945, may have displaced more people than any other event in history. Anti-Semitism, which is people hating people of Jewish descent, and the rise of Nazis forced millions of Jewish citizens to flee their homes. Armed conflict spread throughout Europe, forcing people to seek refuge wherever they could. And political upheaval throughout Europe led to citizens looking for stability and safety elsewhere. right? So this one is war. Okay. India and Pakistan, 14 million people. For nearly 200 years, India was part of the British Empire, but that changed in 1947 when the country won its independence and was to be divided in two separate countries, India and Pakistan. However, tensions arose when people disapproved of the borders created by British officials. Soon, violence broke out, causing millions to flee. This is over the land called Kashmir. Um, and over religious differences. So the borders is over Kashmir. Now, Kashmir is, some people believe, is supposed to be one of the most beautiful places on earth. And the Pakistan and India divide is based off religion. You have some that practice Islam, some that practice Hindu. And they both fight over that area. Both have strong religious and political ties to the region. And currently, it's under control by India, but the Pakistanis do not like that. And so there's a lot of fighting. There's still um, tension today, you know, 80 years later. It's kind of a big deal. Okay. Darn, I thought it was Iraq, but it was Afghanistan. Dang it. Okay. In 1979, the Soviet Union, present day Russia, invaded Afghanistan. This started a war that would last nearly a decade. The years of unrest forced many Afghan people to flee for their lives. By the time the Soviet forces withdrew in 1989 or 87, 6.3 million people had been displaced. So this is another war. So this one is religion. This one is war. Let's see Syria. 12.5 million people. In 2011, people in Syria took to the streets to protest the arrest and torture of teenagers for painting revolutionary statements on a wall. Security forces opened fire on the demonstrators, killing several. The tension eventually escalated into a full-blown civil war. Since the fighting began, more than 12.5 million people have fled the country. In fact, our last story was about Syrian refugees. Okay, so you'll notice a common theme, right? War is a big one. War. Some people call it politics, but it's really just war. War is hard on people. Okay, so if you're someone who's like, war is not a big deal, it is a big deal. We're talking about millions and millions of people's lives are impacted by war. Okay, key idea. What do all four locations in the text have in common? Well, there's a lot of things we could write here. You could write that people were forced to leave. That is something they all have in common. The numbers are in the millions. Is another thing you could say. You could say that all of them have to do with violence. Make sure you have your own unique answer. Next part, how do the map and photos help you understand the refugee crisis? Here's what I see. I'm just going to write down some things. I see children. I see people moving and people dressed for travel. Carrying very little. Those are the things I see. Now I'm going to verbally tell you my answer here. When I look at the photos, this is my answer. When I look at the photos, I see many people who look desperate, who have very little. And what you'll find in some of these countries too is the people who left were doctors, lawyers, wealthy people, and then they end up having to leave and have nothing. Okay, so these displacements are kind of a big deal. Okay, last one. Why do you think the author said that refugee crises have plagued history? Cite details that support that. So if I'm citing my details, I'm going to go in, I'm going to look at the dates. 79, 2000s, 1947, 1930, 1945. The author uses examples from history, many about war. Okay, that's my answer. You just have to have your own answer. You will be asked that question in the Nearpod, so make sure that you give me an answer. As long as it makes sense, you'll get full points.